Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Monday, June 14th, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. In today's episode, we have 3 new products approved by the FDA this week, including Wegovy as a treatment for chronic weight management in adults, and approval of Lybalvi, a new combination product being used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar type 1. And the big news this week is the FDA approval of Aduhelm for Alzheimer's. As always, feel free to skip around. I'm going to include times in the show notes so you get the drugs that interest you. First up this week, the FDA approved a new Cemaglutide injectable, which goes by brand name Wegovy, for chronic weight management in adults with obesity or overweight with at least one weight-related condition, such as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, or high cholesterol, for use in addition to a reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity. This under-the-skin injection is the first approved drug for chronic weight management in adults and general obesity since 2014. Semaglutide may sound familiar to many of you. This is also on the market as Ozempic and Rybelsus. Both are approved for type 2 diabetes. Wegovy is indicated for chronic weight management in patients with a BMI of 27 or greater who have at least one weight-related condition, or in patients with a BMI of 30 or greater. Currently, approximately 70% of American adults have obesity or are overweight. Having obesity or being overweight is a serious health issue associated with some leading causes of death, including heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, and it's linked to an increased risk of certain types of cancer. Losing just 5 to 10% of body weight through diet and exercise has been associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease in adult patients with obesity. Wegovy works by mimicking a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, which goes by GLP-1, that targets areas of the brain that regulate appetite and food intake. The medication dose must be increased gradually over 16 to 20 weeks to 2.4 milligrams once weekly to reduce gastrointestinal side effects. Wegovy should not be used in combination with other semaglutide-containing products, other GLP-1 receptor agonists, or other products intended for weight loss, including prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, or herbal products. Wegovy's safety and efficacy were studied in 4 68-week trials. 3 were randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trials, and 1 was a double-blind placebo-controlled randomized withdrawal trial in which patients receiving Wegovy either continued with the treatment or switched to a placebo. More than 2,600 patients received Wegovy for up to 68 weeks in these 4 studies, and more than 1,500 patients received placebo. The largest placebo-controlled trial enrolled adults without diabetes. The average age at the start of the trial was 46 years, and 74% of patients were female. The average body weight was 231 pounds, and average BMI was 38. Individuals who received Wegovy lost an average of 12.4% of their initial body weight compared to individuals who received placebo. Another trial enrolled adults with type 2 diabetes. The average age was 55 years, and 51% were female. The average body weight was 220 pounds, and average BMI was 36. In this trial, individuals who received Wegovy lost 6.2% of their initial body weight compared to those who received placebo. The most common side effects of Wegovy include nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, abdominal pain, headache, fatigue, indigestion, hypoglycemia, flatulence, and gastroenteritis. The prescribing information for Wegovy contains a boxed warning to inform healthcare professionals and patients about the risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Wegovy should not be used in patients with a personal or family history of medullary thyroid carcinoma, or in patients with a rare condition called multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Wegovy should not be used in patients with a history of severe allergic reactions to Cemaglutide or any of the other components of Wegovy. Patients should stop Wegovy immediately and seek medical help if a severe allergic reaction is suspected. Wegovy also contains warnings for inflammation of the pancreas and gallbladder, including gallstones, low blood sugar, acute kidney injury, diabetic retinopathy, increased heart rate, and suicidal behavior or thinking. Patients should discuss with their healthcare professional if they have symptoms of pancreatitis or gallstones. If Wegovy is used with insulin or a substance that causes insulin secretion, patients should speak to their healthcare provider about potentially lowering the dose of insulin or the insulin-inducing drug to reduce the risk of low blood sugar. Healthcare providers should monitor patients for kidney disease, diabetic retinopathy, and depression or suicidal behavior or thoughts. Also this week, the FDA approved a new combination product used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar type 1 disorder. This combination of olanzapine and samidorphan goes by brand name Lybalvi and is being marketed by Alzheimer's. This could be a big agent for Alzheimer's as they received approval for both schizophrenia and bipolar 1, and it's being marketed as both monotherapy and in combination. Libalvi is a combination of a second-generation antipsychotic olanzapine and samidorphan, which is an opioid antagonist that is a new chemical entity. Samidorphan was included in the makeup of the medication to control weight gain and other side effects that have been commonly established to the Eli Lilly drug Zyprexa. That's the brand name of standalone olanzapine. Weight gain is a concern for patients taking second-generation antipsychotics like Zyprexa due to its relationship to metabolic syndrome. Libalvi was approved based on data from the Enlighten clinical development program. The Enlighten 1 study evaluated the antipsychotic efficacy of Libalvi compared to placebo over 4 weeks, and the Enlighten 2 study assessed weight gain with Libalvi compared to olanzapine over 6 months. The Phase 3 Enlighten 2 study met its primary endpoints of a lower mean percent weight gain from baseline at 6 months than those receiving olanzapine, and a lower proportion of patients who gained 10% or more of their baseline body weight at 6 months compared to cohort receiving olanzapine. Approval of Libalvi faced a tough road with the FDA. Back in December, the FDA issued a complete response letter to Alzheimer's over the coding process of the tablet manufactured at Alzheimer's facility in Wilmington, Ohio. There were no clinical issues associated with the letter, but Alzheimer's resubmitted its new drug application in late December after addressing the manufacturing issue raised by the FDA. Just 2 months prior to the complete response letter, the schizophrenia drug was overwhelmingly supported by an FDA advisory committee. In October 2020, a joint meeting of the Psychopharmacologic Drugs Advisory Committee and the Drug Safety and Risk Management Advisory Committee voted 16-1 in favor of the efficacy of Libalvi. It also received strong support for its safety profile during that meeting. There had been some concern about Libalvi heading into that meeting. FDA staff members raised concerns over the potential for abuse due to the fact that the drug's makeup includes an opioid antagonist. There will be some challenges for Alzheimer's with marketing as well, since the schizophrenia and bipolar space is already heavily generic. And finally this week, and really the big news that everyone has been talking about from the FDA this week, is the approval of aducanumab, which goes by brand name Aduhelm, for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Aduhelm was approved using the accelerated approval pathway, which can be used for a drug for a serious or life-threatening illness that provides a meaningful therapeutic advantage over existing treatments. Accelerated approval can be based on the drug's effects on a surrogate endpoint that is reasonably likely to predict a clinical benefit to patients, with a required post-approval trial to verify that the drug provides the expected clinical benefit. Alzheimer's is an irreversible progressive brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills, and eventually the ability to carry out simple tasks. While the specific causes of Alzheimer's disease are not fully known, it is categorized by changes in the brain, including amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary or tau tangles, that result in loss of neurons and their connections. These changes affect a person's ability to remember and think. Researchers evaluated Aduhelm's efficacy in 3 separate studies representing a total of 3,482 patients. The studies consisted of double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled dose-ranging studies in patients with Alzheimer's disease. Patients receiving the treatment had significant dose and time-dependent reduction of amyloid beta plaque, while patients in the control arm of the study had no reduction of amyloid beta plaque. These results support the accelerated approval of Aduhelm, which is based on the surrogate endpoint of reduction of amyloid beta plaque in the brain, a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Amyloid beta plaque was quantified using positron emission tomography imaging to estimate the brain levels of amyloid beta plaque in a composite of brain regions expected to be widely affected by Alzheimer's disease pathology compared to a brain region expected to be spared of such pathology. The prescribing information for Aduhelm includes a warning for amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, which most commonly presents as temporary swelling in areas of the brain that usually resolves over time and does not cause symptoms, though some people may have symptoms such as headache, confusion, dizziness, vision changes, or nausea. Another warning for Aduhelm is a risk of hypersensitivity reactions, including angioedema and urticaria. The most common side effects of Aduhelm were amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, headache, fall, diarrhea, and confusion, altered mental status, or disorientation. Under the accelerated approval provisions, the FDA is requiring the company Biogen to conduct a new randomized controlled clinical trial to verify the drug's clinical benefit. If the trial fails to verify clinical benefit, the FDA may initiate proceedings to withdraw approval of the drug. So that snippet was the FDA's press release for Aduhelm. Now, take that into context. The drama with this comes from 2 things. First, before approval, advisory committees that specialize in certain areas review and vote on a drug to basically move it to the next step. This advisory committee, the Peripheral and Central Nervous System Drug Advisory Committee, voted 10-1 against approval of Aduhelm. The lone one was actually a vote of uncertain and not approval. The FDA then granted the drug accelerated approval, basically streamlining a path to marketing and against the expertise of the advisory panel. 3 of the members of the panel have since resigned amidst the drama. One stating the FDA, and I quote, is not presently capable of adequately integrating the committee's scientific recommendations into its approval decisions. The second thing to note here is this drug has generated all kinds of excitement because it is the first approved drug that does more than just relieve the symptoms of Alzheimer's. This drug actually affects an underlying disease process by reducing the amount of sticky amyloid plaque that builds up in the brain. The catch is that removing this plaque may not actually help patients avoid memory loss and thinking problems. One big study showed that it did, another showed that it didn't. My opinion here, the FDA is rushing to approval and really pulling at people's heartstrings. What person would not want to take a drug with the hope of not losing themselves over time? What is that cost actually worth? Is it the $56,000 a year? Given the disease, Medicare will be the primary payer for this product, so expect some more drama as things progress. And that's all I have for right now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.